everyone. My name is Laurie Pasteryak, and I am standing here live talking to you from the Fairfield Museum inside our exhibition, Floral Expressions, 200 Years of Women's Power Through Fashion. So right now, the museum is closed to the public, but we are, as a staff, working to help bring you lots of virtual content through either live Facebook feeds, recorded videos, online posts, through a lot of both Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. So if you, as well as our website, which is www.fairfieldhistory.org. So today I'm going to be talking a little bit about these 20th century dresses that are in the exhibition here. So if you've seen the other videos and the other live feeds, you've heard me talk a lot about 18th century from 1780 to 1800 fashion for women, as well as 1830s and 1860s. But today we're going to jump into the mid-20th century. A lot because, number one, I love them, but also because we actually know who the four women were that wore these dresses. And it's really important to highlight the significant changes that happened from 1900 to the 1970s in both women's history and freedoms, as well as just the dynamic changes in fashion that happened in actually 20 years here. So we're just going to talk a little bit about today these fashions, the women who wore them, and also about all of the different materials that we now have access to because of this period in history. So with that, if you have any comments or questions, or you want to say hi, please let me know you're here. It'd be great to say hi and talk to you soon. We do miss everybody here at the public from the museum, but we're really excited to be able to connect with you via these social media outlets. So again, if you have any comments or questions, please do post them on the video, and I'll be happy to get to them later. So today, these four dresses that we're going to talk about span from 1950 over here to 1955, 1960, and 1970. So we're looking at 20 years of change in fashion, but also change in women and how women moved about society and in the culture, in American culture in this period. So why don't we start with 1950? So this dress is, of course, an evening gown. What you don't see is actually dropped straight to the floor. It has a nice cinched waist, which is that Christian Dior kind of like A-line look that we're going to be seeing. It's got these beautiful cap sleeves, and it's got the navy applique of lace flowers that are on layers of essentially synthetic fiber. So in the 1950s, there was a huge boost in access to different fibers and materials, where you took things like cotton and lace and started interweaving them with synthetic fibers like rayon to produce different feels, different textures, and access to multiple amounts of both layers and from different providers. So you're looking at an explosion of different types of opportunities for women to wear in fashion during this period. So in 1950, we're also looking at a period in history where 5, 6 years ago, 10 years ago, women were, because of World War II, working in factories. So the fashions from the 1940s, about 10 years before this, became a bit more straight-line, seamed. Women were wearing pants. They were, of course, were breaking barriers because of the need for factory work. So this dress, which belonged to Mrs. Ira Warner of the Warner Company here in Bridgeport and lived in Fairfield, this dress is actually a great example of the bounce backwards, or we'll say bounce forwards, in fashion. So women went from more of a, I don't want to say manly style, but more of a rigid style in the 1940s during World War II, where you had a lot of straight line suits and pants, to becoming much more feminine and delicate and elegant. Women also returned from the factories to back at home. So we're looking at an increase in domesticity in the 1950s as opposed to the 1940s and World War II. So this dress, although it is an evening gown from a woman from a very of the upper class or social elite here in Fairfield, we're looking at a great example of how the fashion from the 1950s really returned to this very feminine elegance, which is very similar to what we talked about in the like the late 18th century and the 1860s of a lot of delicate work. There is a lot of machine sewing in this dress. There's also likely some inner kind of underwear that's happening here from the corset company, the Border family, of course, of that's really kind of tucking in her waist in order to give this beautiful A-line look. So from 1950 to 1955, we have this actually beautiful ensemble. So this is actually a two-piece dress. It was worn by Gertrude Payton, who is the wife of town local historian, Fairfield historian Marcia Miner here in town. This dress is fantastic because number one, it's so dramatically different from the evening gown. So you're looking at a cocktail dress here. You're looking at a skirt that's flowing below the knee, a very penciled line here with a small jacket or bodice over it. And that fabric has this wonderful sheen. It is a silk fabric, silk satin fabric from what we determine is probably Japanese fabric, mostly because of the designs in it. So there's actually these beautiful cherry blossoms, Japanese cherry blossoms. There's a rickshaw that people are promenading in the back through the boardwalk in what looks like to be a Japanese style garden that is actually embroidered into the silk fabric. So what's interesting about this is there is some machine sewing here, but there's also lots of hand sewing in this dress. And when we started talking a little bit to local people about this dress and about the family, we learned, of course, that Gertrude's husband, Chick Payton, or Charles Chick Payton, was actually abroad during the 1940s and 1950s. He was a photographer, videography cameraman, and he was serving abroad and actually ended up working for Hearst Media, coming back to the US after. So our thought is, in the 1940s or 1950s, perhaps this fabric, because of its Japanese print, which was very in, as well as the metallics in the 1950s, this dress is very high fad. We love it. That he may have acquired this fabric or the dress overseas and brought it back. So we're looking at different elements of fashion in the same decade here. You're looking at a very, of course, feminine elegance in this evening dress to a cocktail dress, which does have this fine pencil silhouette. For a woman who is likely attending cocktail events in New York City, they were both kind of going out and enjoying the evening life, the party life, I should say, in very different ways. And both of these, however, still dramatize kind of the feminine elegance of those 1950s, the return to the home, and also, of course, in its delicate work. Then, however, we jump to the 1960s and 70s. And these two dresses were, number one, they're super bright. We love them. We love the wild pop art of the 60s and 70s, right? We're going into circa 1960 here and 1970 here. So this is the psychedelic era of where space age, of where women are breaking all sorts of barriers, not only in fashion, but in education, in the workplace, and also deserving of protections in the workplace. So for example, you can no longer be fired because you are pregnant. We think this is great. So this era of 1960s and 1970s is breaking all sorts of patterns, from social patterns to cultural patterns to fashion patterns. In the 1960s, we're looking at this beautiful Lilly Pulitzer dress back here. Now, this is the essential Fairfield frock in the 1960s. This dress belonged to Mary Elizabeth McElroy Nevins, who's the mother of the former curator here at the museum, Christopher Nevins. So I'd like to give a shout out and a thanks to Chris for number one, helping with this exhibition, but also helping share his mother's perspective and story about this dress. So the Lilly Pulitzer dress, and this is the Lilly, it has a lot of very specific things about it, became a sensation in the 1960s. So Lilly Pulitzer was actually the wife of a man, and ended up living in Florida. He actually owned several orange groves. And she had taken it upon herself to, number one, both work in the groves, but also create a fashion while she was down there. She wanted something bright, something that hid stains, something that was easy and cool, but also kind of engaged in that beautiful pop art, kind of Floridian tropical look. And so this Lilly Pulitzer dress, with its still feminine feel to it, but also kind of its shorter skirt. It's definitely not a mini skirt, but it's getting there. Into its bright poppies and also other kind of, elegant, but also bright look to it, as well as the white applique around the neck, is a very typical Lilly Pulitzer dress. And if you think about the Lilly Pulitzer look, it's a woman who is on the go, who is, chauffeuring her kids around town, who is, however, a stay-at-home mom and really kind of volunteering in the community and keeping busy, whether playing bridge at the local, with friends, or she's out and about. This is a true Lilly dress, and it does coincide, especially with the feel from the mid-1950s into the 60s, the suburbanization of the town of Fairfield and other towns in this area. So the Lilly Pulitzer dress from 1960, we absolutely love here, and a big, again, thanks to everybody who helped pull this information together. Next to our 1960 dress, we have our 1970 dress. So this is now, we're looking at Lilly Pulitzer. This is another designer called Lydia DeRoma. And, like the Lilly, you're using really bright, stylized fabric and applique here, with the, again, really bright, kind of funny flowers that really resemble pop art. And this dress, the Lydia DeRoma dress, was actually an Italian designer. It was purchased at a store called Jean Allen, which was in Southport, down by the waterfront. And it belonged to a woman named Carolyn Punchy Blish. Was a very well-educated woman. She attended 4 different schools, including in textile, in studying textiles and fashion history through New York University and the Metropolitan Museum of Art. She actually volunteered and worked with for a long time. So she had a unique interest in fashion and fashion history, and volunteered and helped here lead a lot of the fashion history that we have here at the Fairfield Museum and in our collection. So Carolyn Punchy Blish was a woman who really believed and spoke her mind. She made moves. And this dress definitely resembles a woman who walks in the room, not only that, is going to have fun, but is also going to speak her mind. So from 1950 to 1970, we have a significant difference in the way women in society are speaking their mind through their fashion, right? So we have a more elegant, demure cocktail evening dress here in 1950, kind of reaching out to this bright and still domestic feel, but more into speaking out and speaking up and being noticed in a room with these bright colors. 1960s and 70s, of course, are known for their psychedelic fashion. And if you're interested in more in the 1960s and 1970s, we have here at the Fairfield Museum, we actually have an online exhibition that we did that I can post the link to after, to talk to you a little bit more about and share more information about what happened in Fairfield in the 1960s and 70s and how it shaped a lot of the way the community is today. So again, Thank you for joining me. We really appreciate that we have the opportunity to connect with you from the Fairfield Museum through our social media outlets and our website, again, fairfieldhistory.org. If you have any comments or questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. This is just a very brief tour of these 4 dresses. There's a lot more information out there and in the exhibition about it. So again, when we open back up to the public someday, I hope you'll come and visit, say hello, and also be able to see these in person. Thank you again, and please consider donating or supporting the Fairfield Museum. You can do that via Facebook. You can also do that online on our website. We're working to bring you all of this virtual content, and we appreciate any contribution and your support that you can offer. Thank you again, and have a great day. Bye.